afternoon, everybody. Happy Thursday. It is so good to be with you. This is our What's Happening segment, and I am joined today by our Executive Director of Operations, TJ Terry. Why don't you introduce yourself, TJ?
Hey, guys.
Hi. So
I'm who Andrew said.
TJ wears many hats around here, and if you don't know him, go ahead and say hi to him on a Sunday, because these are probably going to be some of the most interesting conversations you're going to have. So
That's funny.
This segment, so what we're doing here is we're just trying to let the church community know what's happening, what's going on with our church. But before we get into that, I want to first dive in and just introduce you a little bit more and just tell the people who you are. And so this week, you've been doing daily devotionals.
Yes, true.
And I have loved the analogies you've been making with basketball.
Yeah.
So I just want to ask, where does this love of basketball come from, and how are you able to relate it so well to both your ministry life and your just personal life in general?
Yeah. I could get in trouble for this, so I'm just going to say this way. I tell people pretty regularly, and I mean this completely as a joke. It gets people to laugh, and then it sets the conversation up more. That the order of my life is, and not counting human beings, just again, don't yell at me. Is Jesus, Apple, Indiana basketball, and so. Born in Chicago, but grew up in southern Indiana, really just a few miles south of Indiana University's campus. And you can't grow up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, even the first couple of years of the 2000s, and not just become a religious follower.
The stadiums got loud, didn't they?
Yeah. I think the other thing that people forget is, and you can look it up, you can fact check me. If you look at the top 10 largest high school basketball gymnasiums in the United States, over half of them are in Indiana. It's not just a sport there. It's something so much more. It's a lot like football in Texas or Ohio. It's a very different thing. And so growing up as a kid, everyone went to the high school basketball games. Everyone that could would go to the college games. And being an IU fan wasn't an absolute, but it was darn close. And so played, middle school and high school, and even just for fun. After that.
I heard you had some pretty good games, too, dropping 7 for 7.
That's right, 7 for 7 this morning. 7 for 7 this morning. But and then also, I think the thing that took it to the next level, besides the fandom, is I got the opportunity to coach my boys for 6 years, playing pretty competitive ball at the same time, too. So it's an extreme thing for me. I'll honestly, when the college basketball season kicks in, I will schedule as much as I can. I will schedule my life around it if my friends and family will let me. And so if it's a Tuesday night at 7 o'clock and somebody texts me and I don't answer, I'm probably sitting. This is not good news. I'm probably sitting. Like, I have a giant TV in the living room. There's no reason why I have to sit closer to the TV, but I'll usually sit within a foot of the TV with my feet, like my knees on the ground, like a little kid playing video games. And because I don't want anyone to walk between me and the TV.
No distractions.
Because it's a distraction. Yeah.
That's amazing. No, I've just loved how you've compared it to, and all the lessons you learned from basketball to Jesus and ministry, and how we're supposed to almost use God as our guide, that this morning really hit home.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people really enjoyed that. So if you have the opportunity, please go ahead and look at our online Facebook community. And then also, we want to share some updates with you. So thank you, TJ, for introducing yourself, getting the people to know you just a little bit more. But what's happening with the church? We've got some events coming up, some very exciting news. And for the first things first, we've got Growth Track. And if you don't know about Growth Track, it's a 4-step process where you come to know Jesus, discover your purpose, connect with others, and make a difference. And personally, that step 2 of the Growth Track has been so impactful for not only my life, but all the other people that have been taking this Growth Track in the last few years that it's been here. I've just seen life change happen. So I would really invite you to take the Growth Track. You can start and stop at any time if you do it online, but we also have an in-person available Growth Track experience available for you. And that's at the last Sunday of every month. So if you want to sign up for the in-person, you can go ahead on the website, sign up there. It's at 5:30 at our Yorktown campus. But also, like I said, be sure to stop by our website too for that on-demand version. And I just want to share some really quick, exciting news. We have this growth track going out all over the world. It's incredible how many people are signing up, taking it. So truly, there is no excuse. If there is people in India and Pakistan taking our growth track, I think you can prioritize just a little bit of time and really pay attention, because it really does help you connect with the church and also further your faith just a little bit more. So secondly, we have our kid dedication coming up. So Mother's Day is on the way. Start planning now. If you don't have a gift in mind for your mom or a special event that you're going to do for your mom, I suggest starting to plan a little bit right now. And I don't know about you, but my mom's so special to me, and I really want to make that a special day. And how you can make that a special day is also, if you have a child and you want to do kid dedication, we have our link right here, watersedgechurch.net/kid dedication, and you can sign up there. And what that means is it's a partnership between you, God, and the church. And we're raising our children to know, love, and serve God. So if you want to be a part of that, we have both in-person and online options available. And we would just invite you to sign up on our website. We'd be so happy to have you. And lastly, just one thing that's so special to my heart. And like I said before, this is where TJ was all week in the daily devotions. And that's our online Facebook community. So if you guys don't know anything about the online Facebook community, that is a place where we just come together as a church, everyone around the world, where people are connecting, growing in their faith, coming together for daily devotions. You can see TJ tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time now, right? Yeah. And I think it's just such a great tool, to keep people connected. I love the good morning chats where everybody's just saying hello, good morning, and we just come together to know, love, and serve God there as well. So please go ahead and sign up on our online Facebook community. If you don't have the link yet, I believe it was just posted for you, and we will also provide it in the link below. So with that being said, let's go ahead and roll these clips and take a look at what the sermon had to offer.
And wouldn't you know it, Pastor Ben picked heaven last week, and so that means today we're on the highway to hell, everybody. Okay, and that's my topic today is to teach you everything you probably never wanted to know about this place called hell. And after he chose his topic, he sent me a little picture. I think he was trying to encourage me because he knew I was not feeling so excited about preaching on this topic. But he said, after you preach, Pastor Stu, on hell, I'm gonna give you a new nickname. And he actually offered to me not only the nickname, he also offered a little subtitle for today's sermon. And he sent me this picture, and he said, "This is my new nickname, Chicken Al Pastor." All right, that's my new nickname. But the subtitle for today's sermon is "Where Fire Meets Flavor." All right, that's.
That's awesome. Don't you just love how we have such a fun, loving pastor? And I know for a fact that this is one of our values here, right? Church should be fun.
Oh, yeah.
And I just want to ask, I know you've had a play in that, or a say in these values. And I want to know, why do you think that we're such a fun group? Why do you think that we prioritize fun here at Water's Edge?
Oh, gosh. That's an interesting question. I would say first and foremost, I'll give a personal story.
Yeah.
I've said this for a long time in many different work environments. Any work we do, we should try to find a way to make it fun. Yeah. If we can't make it fun, we should double check to make sure we have to do it. And so to me, it's a personal alignment in that I try to make everything I do fun. And if I can't make it fun, I definitely try to figure out if someone else can do it for me. I'm just kidding. I don't think it really works that way. I think it's a response. And again, I'm using my own perspective here. I think it's a response to what church used to be, or what some churches still are. If you grew up like I did in church, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, as a kid growing up, fun is definitely not a word that I would have used. Yeah. There's lots of words I would have used, but fun was definitely not one of them. And so I think I grew up with a tension of, is this worshiping my Heavenly Father? Is this taking steps forward in my faith? Is this thing I'm doing every week? Mm-hmm. Does it have to be like this? And I think the honest answer is, at least from our perspective, no, it doesn't. And I don't think that going to church on Sunday or worshiping God throughout the week is a penalty. It's not something we sacrifice. It's something we get to do, not got to do.
I love that perspective.
And so I think making it fun more closely aligns with God's heart. We should be celebrating as we're entering into an environment by which we get the chance to worship. I think second's this, if you don't know this about Waters Edge Church, you're about to. I'm surprised that you don't. We do so much of what we do focused on people that aren't already in a relationship with Jesus. Right. And so we know that any obstacles that exist out there for the message to be anchored into someone's heart, for someone to take steps forward in the faith, for someone to go from being de-churched or unchurched or anti-church back into this life that we're living, this thing we're doing, any way we can remove an obstacle, we're going to do it. And so not fun is an obstacle for people to wake up early on a Sunday morning, inevitably it's their day off, and go and do something. Well, let's remove that obstacle. Right. And let's try and use fun as a way to open up people's hearts to this life-changing experience that Jesus is calling us to.
Man, I am not going to ruin that explanation at all, speaking anymore. I think we should just turn it over to the second clip. But yes, thank you, because I believe with everything you just said wholeheartedly, and that's the reason why I'm still here. It is fun. Great. TJ makes it fun. And so does Pastor Stu. But let's go ahead and look at that second sermon clip.
So suddenly now, it's a little bit more palatable to us. Hell exists for Satan. That's why it was created. It was made for Satan, and we're all good with that, I think. We're all good with hell for Satan. But there's a second reason why hell exists. If hell exists for Satan, number one. Number two, you need to know today that hell exists for sinners. It just got real up in here, didn't it? Because here's the reality. All of us right now are thinking, I'm a sinner. If you're not thinking I'm a sinner, you just lied to yourself. That makes you a sinner.
Yeah, so that one was a heavy hitter. And if you were in that sermon, I think you realized that, yes, that was a sermon that wasn't the same. It didn't have the same ring as we normally see at Waters Edge Church, but I really believed that was necessary, that Pastor Stu approached a topic and changed our minds on what we believe hell is for. I had never thought like hell exists for Satan. Like that term and that thought, that idea, it didn't cross my mind. And I really appreciated Pastor Stu coming through and really sharing that perspective with us, but also challenging us and challenging our perspectives in these ways. And I just want to know here for you, like, how did that sermon affect your mindset and your ideas of what hell exists for and who it exists for? But also, was that sermon something that you saw coming? Was it something that you expected him to try and tackle?
Yeah, we've done message series like this before. I think it may have been last year, it could have been the year before that. We did a series called 1 Minute After You Die, where we touched on some similar topics. The thing I think that stuck with me, and he talks about it in his message, we talked about it even over the last few days in the daily devotional, is that God in sin can't exist in the same place. Right. Can't exist in the same environment. That God, being what God is, couldn't reside in an environment where there is sin. And so it makes total sense that a loving God had one of two decisions to make. The loving God could make the decision that if there are people that give in to a life of sin and embrace it, then when they die, they don't exist anymore, right? That's not hell. That's like maybe worse than hell. Yeah. I'm not sure that there is a word, but that's not great, right? No. The other option would be, because I love them, but can't coexist with them in their embracing of this life of sin, I've got to put them somewhere I'm not. Yeah. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know. It does not matter to me what else is happening in hell, how else hell is described. It's not to say it's not important. It means it's not material in my decision making. What's important in my decision making is that I want to be where God is, and I don't want to be anywhere God isn't.
Right.
Since the day I was born, I've been in God's presence. Why in the world would I do something, live a certain way, make a decision, a conscious decision that would put me somewhere God isn't? Now, I get excited about the opposite. I get to be in God's presence, and all of these things that exist in this life will be gone, like pain, like doubt, like jealousy, like regret, like any of this stuff. And so basketball needs to go to heaven, but I don't want pain to come. That way, when I play too long, I'm not in pain after. That would be a really great, that'd be perfect. But I think, I hope that makes sense. You know, the idea that is really helpful to wrestle with. Hell exists because God had to have a place for his creation, for the people who, because his love for them gave them free will to make a choice. It just wasn't the right one. And I think the other part, I said this incorrectly, I think even earlier this week. Ultimately, who decides who goes where? Each of us.
Yeah.
I can't decide where my kids are going to go. I can't decide where Andrew's going to go. And God's not picking for me. It's ultimately my choice, and it's my decisions in the life I choose to embrace as to what happens next. So it seems pretty straightforward, right? Why wouldn't we all just make the easy decision, the good decision? But the road is narrow.
Right. No, it's kind of scary and enlightening and happy at the same time. It's like it's comforting to know that we have the responsibility ourselves. It's up to us, and that there's no other thing outside of our decisions that can impact our outcomes. But it's scary too, and saying like, oh man, there's like, I have to do it myself now. Like I have to make this decision.
Yeah.
And I really like the challenge that Pastor Stu gave us in that moment, and just challenged our perspectives. So with that, I just want to ask anyone in the chat that's watching now. I saw Balber here, and I want to say hi, Balber, and just ask, what is your take on that? On that hell exists for sinners, but also Satan, and first Satan and then sinners. What's your take, and do you have any perspective shifts from that message? So I'll go ahead and look here, and if anybody else is watching, feel free to comment too. We love to engage with you all too, and that's the whole point. We're trying to stay connected. We're trying to be connected as a church throughout the week, and that's why we're doing this here. So if you want to go ahead and chime in, we'll give you a shout out here and answer your questions and also say hello. But if not, let's go ahead and turn it to that third sermon clip. So we'll stay tuned. Here we go.
If you really believe what I'm teaching you today, if you really believe what the Bible says, if you really believe what Jesus himself said, then live your life to know Jesus and to help others know Jesus. What more could you live your life for? What more could there be in this life? Would you think about it for a moment? If this is true, then what more could you invest your life in? Knowing Jesus and helping others know Jesus is our mission. It's what we're all about. It's why we're here on this planet for such a short, brief period of time. Remember, life is short, eternity's long. So you live this little short life to know Jesus and to leverage everything God's given you to help others know Jesus. Because I don't want anybody to have to pay for their own sin. And I don't want anybody to spend eternity in a place forever separated from God's presence. So, say yes to Jesus today. And then invest your life in knowing him and helping others know him. And let me let you in on a little secret, because you've spent your whole life trying to figure it out. I'm going to give it to you. This is what life's about. Don't be deceived. Don't be deceived. This is what it's about. I heard Craig Groeschel, one of my favorite pastors, say this one time. He said, if I were the devil, then I would try to convince you that hell is not real, or at least that it's not a big deal. That nobody's really going there. Everybody's okay. We're all probably going to heaven. Don't worry about hell. Because if I could convince you not to believe in hell, then you could easily just live for today. You could do whatever you want. Justify your sin. Reject Christ. Live with no fear of God. If you're a Christian and yet I could get you to believe hell wasn't real, then you'd put eternity in the back of your mind. You'd convince yourself not to take hell seriously, and then you would live ridiculously self-centered lives. You'd idolize comfort. You'd reject sacrifice. You'd avoid persecution. You'd fall in love with this world and believe that it's all that really matters. And you would rarely, if ever, share your faith with those who don't know Christ. Because if I were the devil and can convince you that hell isn't real, then you would completely live for today and forget why you're really here. And I think that's sadly how many of us have been living our lives like hell isn't real. But what you believe about eternity determines how you live today. And hell is real, and people are going to spend forever there. But it doesn't have to be you.
Incredible. I just want to take a quick moment, really quick, just to say thank you to Pastor Stu. I mean, I don't know about you all, but I view each Sunday service with new amazement and new joy of learning something new. And I think that it's Pastor Stu's delivery. You know, it's him coming through and preaching these sermons to us that really open our eyes. So I don't care if it's 5 minutes from now, 5 months from now, or 5 years from now. I want you to go ahead and put a blue heart emoji in there. If you just appreciate Pastor Stu, and if you appreciate the sermons that he gives and the passion that he comes through with, I'll just be honest with you all. I was in tears at the end of that service. I really felt Pastor Stu's heart and his words hitting home. And it just moved me to a way to just say, like, man, Jesus does love us. Jesus wants us to come home. It was that I thought about the prodigal son in that moment saying, like, just come home and spend eternity with Jesus. That's what we're here for. You know, that's the perspective that he's saying is like, that is what is important here on this earth. So, I mean, I really found that inspiring, very passionate and moving subject that really opened my eyes, and I hope you all felt the same. So throw that blue heart emoji if you can. And I just want to ask you, I mean, first and foremost, you ever see someone preach with that much passion, besides maybe you or Pastor Ben? But secondly, what is your take on what that phrase is? The real phrase, the sentence that we're focusing on, how you view eternity determines how you live today. What is your take on that sentence?
Yeah. No, I love how much you can feel Pastor Stu's heart in how he speaks. And we all know people who can passionately love, but it's not conveyed the way he does it. And so you could tell throughout the message there's a desperation to his heart in trying to convince anyone who's listening to make that change in their life and go on the right path. So I agree with you. I agree with you there. I think, it's reinforced all the time around us that the assumptions we make about life, about love, about all these things are so material in the choices we make at the same time too. And so I was watching a show last night. Doesn't really matter, the show, and they were processing through the reality that when looking at their life in the rearview mirror, so many of the decisions they made were based on the assumption that they had more time. Why didn't you go to dinner with that person? Right. Why didn't you take that person on this vacation? And they were even processing through the loss in a relationship, and it was, well, why didn't you guys go to Paris? And they were processing it. Well, we got married quick, and then we started having kids right away, and then jobs got busy, and then they stopped and paused and said, I just thought I'd had more time. And I think it's those assumptions that lead all of us to make decisions that don't line up with our best or God's best in our life at the same time too. And so it's funny because when he was talking about the heaven or hell, the two absolutes of heaven and hell, it's not necessarily directly connected, but it brought this quote to mind. So I just pulled it up. It's by Elie Wiesel, who's a writer and who's a Holocaust survivor. And Elie said this: the opposite of love is not hate; it's indifference. And to dig a little bit more deeply, to be indifferent means that you have no emotion, no life, no love, no interest in something which another may base their life on by loving it. And so I think when we think of love, we in one hand hold heaven and hate, and in the other hand hold hell. To know that hate's not the antithesis of or the opposite of love. It's being indifferent to it. Yeah. And so when I think about people even living their lives through the concept of this absolute of heaven or hell, I don't know very many people in my life who live a life that is in opposition to my faith. I know a lot of people in my life that it's a nice to do, that they're just indifferent. And I don't know that I would run for those people that are indifferent. I don't know that I would run to them out of desperation, believing that I'm out of time. And I'm making the statement truthfully, but acknowledging the mistake. They're indifferent. Well, that's easier. Somebody who's in our online services commenting negative things, well, we work really hard and really fast to solve that problem. Or they write a review and there's a misperception, or they ask tough questions. We tend to run for those folks. But then there's this middle section of people who are indifferent to heaven and hell, who are indifferent to the life and the way that we're living, and we make the assumption that there's all kinds of time.
Right.
Well,
there's not.
There may be all kinds of time, but you don't know that, nor should you make your decisions based on that. It would be like me driving down the road and without the car in front of me having the turn signal on, driving behind them as if I know they're turning right. I'm not making good decisions in that I'm making an assumption about there with no information to fulfill that. There's no one's promised tomorrow.
Right.
So why wouldn't we be hungry today to pursue people and lead them towards, just as desperately as Pastor Stu is pleading in the message, lead them towards the way that they might live in God's presence today and every day after that.
Right. I would just say, to go off that, the action call there, the action step is invite. Invite. There, you never know when you're going to change someone's life with an invite. And for me, it happened almost 2 years ago. I got invited to Water's Edge Church by Louise, and she didn't know that in that moment I needed that invite, and that I didn't have much time. I did not have much time left till someone would say, "Hey, would you come to church with me?" And she did. And in that moment, now I'm here. And you could do the same thing for someone else, because there is a little bit of time. We should have that urgency, that sense of urgency, like Pastor Ben was recently stating about. Like, we need to go forward and carry with confidence that we're out there living life with a purpose and doing things on purpose. And that's to further the kingdom of God. So with that, I just want to wrap it up. Say thank you, TJ, for spending some time. No problem. And I really appreciate diving into this sermon together. And also, just to let you know, we will be back again in 2 weeks. So I will see you then around the same time. I hope you all have a great day and enjoy yourself. Bye.